Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Parker, that's what I was waiting for. We were starting fashionably late so that I can make sure that you were in your seat and ready to join us. I'm just kidding. How is everyone? So, tonight, guys, we are going to dive straight in because Amy has a lot of things that she wants to go over. We want to talk about tonight where Aidan is, and just clear up some timeline things and talk about what the next steps are in the search for Aidan. He still has not been found. Hi, Amy. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Thank you, Suf Mom, for having me on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime that you want to come on and talk to the community and spread awareness, that's what we are here for.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time. I haven't been on a lot of social media. I've actually been trying to call media, like network, newspapers. This is not something that they really want to follow up on. I think a lot of people have seen missing person stories and they just disappear. And the criminal ones are the ones that we see on TV. But what people don't realize is that there are a lot of people who don't get coverage. And I don't know if you're aware of this one case of this young. I mean, I think she's like 31 or 32. A woman in Missouri. She's been looking for her mother for 2 years, and she's gotten no help from the local police there, and no coverage, no media coverage. And people don't realize that there's many people missing who do not get coverage, and that's why I appreciate you and other social media outlets respectful and who is the focus is to get the visibility out and a higher profile out for people who are not we're not going to be on network news, um, and it's not an ongoing criminal case. So I just want to
Right.
acknowledge that problem.
It is. It is a huge, huge problem because if you think about it, out of the 200,000 missing people, or however many it is, 200, 400,000, I don't even know what the statistics are for this year.
No,
It's a lot, though.
recently,
Out of
no,
that,
I
you
recently,
only see. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Actually, it's about 600,000 go missing every year, and the bulk of them, I think it's upper 90% is found in a short amount of time. But that leaves a lot of people who don't show up. I mean, you want to think about 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 people who are not found, and it takes time, years, months, decades sometimes.
Right. And out of that 60,000, we see what? A handful on the news.
Yeah,
And the rest, their families are just out there looking and searching and hoping, virtually unnoticed. And it's devastating.
yeah, it is. It is. And so I just wanted to go over Aidan's timeline really quick. But I noticed on social media that I've been grateful for all the coverage, but there has been like this. It becomes a game of telephone. I don't know if
Hmm.
some people maybe don't know that term, but it's like when you whisper in somebody's ear, and then the next person whispers in the next person's ear, and you get to the end, and it's a completely different story, and that's kind of what happened. And I don't mind if you allow me to go through that just really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so Aidan is from Sonoma, California. He was born and raised here, and and he he's into music and was a very good student up until the time that the pandemic hit. And I talked about this before and how that the pandemic coincided with a breakup with someone he cared for very much, a young lady, and he it was just like one thing on top of the other, and it was really bad for him. I had to come home from work sometimes to to help him. And I struggled so much with getting him mental health care, and there was a lot of it was just crazy back then. Nobody could get it, and I literally was calling the hospital and just screaming and crying until they got somebody for him who my son said that he told him he didn't seem he seemed all right and not depressed enough or something like that, and cut him loose. Everybody was having serious issues at that time, and um, Aiden had some depression before that, and we had a counselor for him before, but the pandemic time was it was horrible. And and he worked a lot through that. His first job was at a grocery store here in Glen Ellen, which is just outside of Sonoma, and he he worked really hard, and he was bought his own truck. All the customers liked him. He made a lot of friends at that first job, and those were some of the friends that he had strong relationships with those people at his first job. And so but he wanted to kind of get out and make a little bit more money, I think, and so he ended up going to Dutch Bros, and that didn't, he made some more friends there, but it didn't seem like a very healthy place for him. And there started to be some issues with some of the people there, and there was somebody was like targeting him there, did something, and accused him of something, and even the management said it was a false claim. So there was some uh, difficult situations there, and these kids are all locked in a box serving coffee for uh, 5 hours, but they work like right on top of each other. So that job is like it was intense. The shifts are intense when it's busy and stuff, and also you're in very close proximity, and it's not like a job where you can get away from your coworker
Right.
at all. And so he grew unhappy there, and that is when he decided to bust out of Sonoma and get into some more music scene stuff, and go up north where his cousin was. And that was like the first week of March, and he was so happy, and I worked really hard to help him get all this stuff and put together all these boxes of things that he would need, dishes, stuff for the kitchen, bathroom supplies. I got him more furniture for his new place, and we it was a big undertaking to drive up there, and he was pretty excited. And shortly after that, there was something wrong. He started accusing family members, and I'm not going to go into that too deep. He was kind of
Uh-oh. Did I lose you? Amy?
Oh,
Okay,
hang
wait.
on.
There you are. I can hear you
Oh,
again.
oh, okay.
I couldn't hear
So,
you for a second there. I don't know what happened.
okay. Um, so where did I leave off? So anyways, he was accusing people of stuff that I've never heard him do before. And the first time he accused his cousin of something, and I took it at face value. But then when he kept accusing people of stuff, I thought, what is going on? And so that was kind of the beginning of the issues that he was having that were beyond depression. And I had tried to get him on medication, and he refused. This was um, during the pandemic, and
Hmm.
he said no, he didn't want to go uh, on medicine. He was against that, um, and I so then after he got accused everybody, this one young man that he stayed with asked me, pulled, I think he went into another room and asked me if Aiden had mental problems. And at that point, I knew something was going on. And so I quickly convinced him. He spent a couple days driving around and staying at hotels, and I convinced him to come home, and he did. And he was very happy to come home. He was excited to be home. He was relieved to be home. And I was, I let out a big sigh, and I thought, okay, let's just decompress here, and get your footing again, Aiden, and let's take care of you and get you some help. But he was resistant to do that, and he was,
How
you know,
how old was he at that point? Can I ask?
he was 19. His
Okay.
birthday is December, early December, so he had been 19 for about four 4.5 months, at this point.
Right.
And um, and so he had, when he turned 18, he I was locked out of his medical thing. Like I said, he was very private a lot of times, and he wouldn't tell me things that were going on. He did this thing a lot where he would tell me about something a week or two later, and I'd be like, why didn't you tell me about that?
Mhm.
And like if he had a run in with friends or people, he wouldn't tell me about it. I would say, what's going on? What's wrong? And he'd say, nothing, Mom, nothing. And then later he would tell me about it. And I'd say, why don't you tell me what's going on? And I I think he thinks that I would like call people, or I just wanted to be there for him. So 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 now we're so now he's back home. I'm trying to get him to calm down. I'm telling him, just take a break. Go, why don't you skateboard, play Pokemon Go, just do something light and easy, and just, let's get you back on track, Aiden. So then he wanted to get another job, but he did take a few weeks off and just kind of, try to chill. But he did keep leaving the house. I noticed that he couldn't sit still. He was anxious. He was um he was uh he, he restless, you know and and so I started noticing that he was having trouble with his relationships, his friendships, and he had another girlfriend, and there were some issues going on there. And um I just really started to worry about him. So then he said he wanted to get a job, and I said, okay, you want to get it back on schedule, get your a scheduled life again, and then we'll get you help. And he, I started to get concerned because he was getting accusatory, angry. Uh, he started, just his personality was changing. He was telling me that people were doing all this stuff uh, all the time, and I just, he started getting paranoid and talking about doors shutting and all this stuff and locks. And I always respected him. I always made sure I always knocked on the door. I never like just uh, barged in on him, because that kind of always was a thing for him. But
Right.
he really, really, he wanted his privacy. What teen doesn't? They're very much like
Right.
that when they get teens. They need a lot of privacy. But he started to ask a lot about doors and stuff. So I know that he got into some arguments with his friend, and somebody told me, one of his friends later said that he was kind of destroying all his relationships. And
Like
that,
pulling away from people or
yeah, well,
like
in an
deliberately
angry,
causing fights?
yeah, getting argumentative with them, and then just saying, you know what, that's it, and so I was getting so worried about him. And so that's when I started calling, the hotlines, the hospital. They were saying they couldn't help me. He had to come in himself. At this point, he was like kind of jumping out the door a lot and coming back, and I, it was getting kind of crazy. So he was training for this job, and he has trained about a week for this nugget market in Sonoma, and the very first day. So this kind of brings us up to Saturday, April 23rd. Um, he That was the last day he worked, and that was the first day that was his first official shift. And I came home, and I all the lights were out in the house, and I went up, knocked on his door, and I said, "Hey, how was work?" And he said, "Fine." And then he just burst into tears, and said he had a very upsetting experience at work. And I sat down with him. I said, "Come out here, talk to me about it." We wrote the whole thing down in a notebook together. Um, I wanted him to document what happened, because I felt like it was a HR issue. And
Right.
he said, "I don't want to go back." And I said, "Well, you don't have to. You don't have to go
Hmm.
back." And so he went in the next day, Sunday, April 24th, and he quit. And I think he gave a resignation letter. And so I was gone for a while, and I came back and asked him, about it. He said he got paid in a few days, and I asked him
Hmm.
how that went. I asked him what the manager said and everything. And and so we were sitting there, and I said, "Please, I'd been looking for counselors for him outside of Kaiser, and I found, a list. I had been calling resources, nonprofit places, and also sliding scale and stuff like that in Santa Rosa.
Right.
I had been calling crisis lines to get references to call these places. And so I found somebody I thought would be a good fit for Aidan, and I asked him, "Please, Aidan, I contacted them. I asked them to call you. Will you please get some counseling?" And he said, "Okay, Mom, yes." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's good." And so we were still sitting here on the couch, and he was looking at his phone, and he suddenly gets that alarmed look on his face, and starts goes up into his room, and shuts the door, and he starts doing something, and he comes out, and he says, I think I need to get out of town for a few days. I gotta go." And I said, "What's wrong?" And he says, "Nothing, Mom, nothing." And I just can't. I just gotta go. And I said, "Honey, okay, where are you gonna go?" And he says, "I'm gonna go to a friend's, or Dad's house." I said, "Well, okay, well, call your dad, because he won't be expecting this." Uh, and uh, and I said I was worried about him, but he also I wanted him to he feel I wanted him to be able to do whatever he needed to feel okay. And he said, um, you know, I'll just be gone for a few days. I'll be right back, and I just need to get out of here for a few days. And I said, "Okay, um, Aidan, what's going on?" And he goes, "Nothing, Mom, nothing's going on." I said, "Aidan, there's seems like something's upsetting you. What is going on?" And he wouldn't tell me, and he said he just wanted to get out of town for a few days. So I said, "Well, if that is going to make you feel better, okay, but don't go." I said, "Don't do anything rash, Aidan. Go straight to your dad's or to your friends. Call me, and let me know when you've landed. And I just want you to feel better." He said something about it's not safe here. He was going on about it's not safe here. And I said, "Aidan, it is safe here. It's safe. We're surrounded by houses. In California, the houses are right on top of each other.
Hmm.
It's not like anything could happen where anybody immediately wouldn't know." And so I'm trying to appeal to his sense of reason on that. And he says, "No, I'm just going to go for a couple days." I said, "Okay, don't do anything rash, Aidan, and just call me when you get landed somewhere."
Now, let
So,
me ask you real quick. Have you
mhm.
ever found out who that last text messages was from? Like, did they Were they able to get you the phone logs or anything, or is that
No,
kind of something you guys are still
so
pursuing?
I would like to pursue that. I'm trying to work on that right now. I am working on
Mhm.
getting phone records. It's not something that the Elko County Sheriff's Department was able to do because, and this is something people probably don't know, is that it has to be criminal in order to get a court order or subpoena. There has to be a criminal issue. You can't just, hey, we're the police and we want these records. There's a lot of
Right.
laws about that. And so they
Yeah,
couldn't
and
get
just
him.
because you're his mom doesn't give you the right
Right.
because
And
he's
this
of
was
age.
his, yes, exactly. And this was his phone. This, what he had gone off when he went up to Washington and bought his own phone and got his own service. So it was no longer on my account,
Oh,
which
wow.
was
Okay.
horrible. And,
Do you
and
know who the
so,
phone carrier was?
yeah, it was Verizon. It's
Okay.
Verizon. And, and so I am working on that with someone right now.
That's good.
Um, yeah, and so I'm just going to go through really quickly the rest of the what happened.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. I
Oh
was
no,
just
no,
curious if that was something you guys
no.
had ever
Like,
tried to get, or if you knew.
yeah, and what I want to do is just go through the timeline really quick and get to some of that stuff what we're working on right now.
Mhm. Okay.
So he actually did not. So he called me at one point. I asked him, where are you? He said he was out at Bodega Bay, and that is like a real soul place for him. Kind of. And the ocean is a place that's also my soul place is the ocean. And we have different favorite beaches, but we both go there when we need some, nourishment, I guess, for our souls. It's and so I said, oh, that's good, Aidan. Come back. It's getting late, but come back and call me when you land somewhere. So then, um, he apparently was not at Bodega Bay. He was right down the block. I don't know exactly which house it was, but it was down the block. His paternal cousin, and he was at their house. And like I said later, they told me he was acting weird, and but they never called me or his grandma or anything to alert us to what he was doing there, and or that he was even there. They didn't contact us to let us know that he was there after he left. And so then he drove to Santa Rosa and did what I actually asked him not to do, to not sleep in his car. I begged him before he left that if he didn't stay at a friend's or his dad's house to please come home. He promised me, but he broke that promise.
Had he ever
And
slept in his vehicle before that point?
no,
Okay.
no. But he hadn't, but I was worried that he would. For some reason, I was worried that he would because he was having trust problems, you know. And so I made him promise to come back and not do anything like because Santa Rosa, like a lot of places, a lot of our towns are not safe places anymore. Um, you know, and crime is picked up, and I wanted him just to come home. So then he didn't call me. I tried calling him. I sent him texts like I'm going to stay up and I'm going to keep texting you. I'm going to stay up until late until you call me, and he didn't. And so the next morning he blocked me. I mean, I was blocked basically, and I kept texting him. I called him like 20 something times. I don't know, 20, 30 times. It was close to 30 times, and sent all these texts to him. And finally, around 10:30, he nonchalantly asked me, "Oh, well, I didn't hear from you." And I was like, Aidan, I sent him copies of screenshots of all the times I tried to text and call him. And then he told me he had not gone to his dad's. And now he told me everybody was kicking me out of Sonoma. I said, I'm not kicking you out of Sonoma. Please come home. And did I jump a little bit? Yeah, no. So this was the next morning. Yeah. So I said, where are you? He wouldn't tell me. I kept asking him, where are you? He's playing this game with me. and telling me I asked him if he was north or south of the Golden Gate Bridge. He lied about that. And then around noon, um, he calls me and says, "Guess what? I'm going to Utah to stay with Grandma and Debbie." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Hayden, well, where are you now?" Still won't tell me. Um, so that that was Monday, April 25th, and then I got on the phone with Debbie and Mike, and we all talked back and forth, and then suddenly everything seemed to be looking up. I thought, thank God he's. I said, okay, maybe you need to get out of town for a little bit. You can stay there for, the summer uh, work. He was excited. Everybody was excited. I felt some sort of relief, but still, I knew that I needed to get out there and see how he was doing and get Debbie and Mike, with him and see how he was doing. And so he stayed in Reno that night at a Motel 6. That was on Monday, April 25th. And apparently, after when I came home and talked to his friends and families, he was texting a lot of people, talking to them, friends from that first grocery store that he worked at. Uh, he texted his friend that he got in an argument with, and basically said, we're good, everything's, you know. I had a little bit of that text where they were making up. His friend sent me a screenshot for that, and then then that's uh, so then on. So he woke up the next day. We're talking. He's talking to me. We're calling, and yeah, he says he's going to stay at Debbie's and Mike's. So he gets up the next morning and leaves Reno for Utah, or pretty early, I think. And that was Tuesday, April 26th. And he's driving all day, and I'm talking to him, and he's super happy. And Debbie and everybody are happy. And and then as the day goes on, he starts to get more and more paranoid. And I'm telling him, please don't do that. Please, Aiden, just meet them. He says, okay. And then he meets Mike at a speedway in the Sugar Hill area of Salt Lake City, claiming he doesn't have GPS, which is hard to believe, of course. And Mike said, well, maybe he just wants to talk to me, and I'll get in the car with him, and we'll follow my friend back to my house. Uh, Aiden wanted Mike, his grandpa Mike, to be in the car with him when they drove back to their house, and immediately started telling him that they were going to go to Washington. And did he want to go to Washington? And Mike is like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that today, Aiden. If we want to plan something. And that's when Grandpa Mike believed that he was going to try and grab his phone. And Aiden got upset with him and said, do you want to go to Washington or not? And Mike said, no, not today. And so Aiden pulled over and opened the door and told him to get out, and left him on the highway. And then I got a call from Debbie, and she was very upset. Told me Aiden tried to kidnap her, and that's when I knew, I needed to call in an emergency. I needed to call police and have them find him. I'm sorry, I still don't know what the Utah term is for a mandatory 3-day lockdown in a psych ward. I don't know what that's called here in California. It's called a 5150. And that's when you believe they could harm themselves or others. And so I started calling all the police. I called the Utah police, Salt Lake City police. I called the Utah Highway Patrol, and got them all the information. And they didn't find him. Now, at this point, I did have access to his bank account the whole time, and I was kind of watching him, and through the bank account, and I saw that he was now in it was Park City, Utah, on the east side of the Salt Lake City area. And that's where I just kind of got lost, because he bought a coffee on the night of the 26th at a gas station there. And oh wait, no, that was I'm sorry, that was I'm getting mixed up here.
It's okay.
So
So
yeah,
he left
no,
Mike
that
in
was
Park
no,
City. He went
yeah,
west on 80.
Yeah,
and
so
then went to
he
the Chevron.
yes, that's right. So he stopped for a coffee there, and that's when I didn't know where the heck he was going to be, because that was the last bank thing to come through, and I had no idea at that point that night where he had gone. And he the next morning, but what he did that day was, this is what he did that I found out later, is that he turned around and went back west on 80, and he stopped in Wendover at the Chevron there, and he got gas, and he took out $200 from an ATM there, and
Mhm.
they got him on CCTV there. So a lot
Okay.
of people were saying that that there was CCTV at the hotel. No, they at the hotel that he stayed in that night, which was in Wells. So he got the $200, the gas, and continued to Wells, and got into a Motel 6. That I found out later. That's where he went, and he there was no CCTV at the hotel. It was at the gas station, and at the gas station they showed he had on a gray hoodie under his coat, and
Okay.
that was about 8:30 at night. So from Wendover, it's like another hour or so, and so he got into the hotel around probably 9:30. And a lot of people were asked, there's a lot of speculation out there about Aidan knowing people in Nevada. No, he did not know anybody in Nevada. He did not know Dylan. The timeline suggests that he went from point A to point B, no stopping. There was no stopping from Salt Lake City to Wendover. There was no stopping from Wendover to Wells. And I was on the phone with him after he got into the hotel. So he did not
Right.
stop and meet anybody. The only people he knew in that part of the United States was his grandparents in Salt Lake City. So, so I was talking to him, and he was exhausted, and he wanted me to read to him, and I did. And we kept texting and talking. Every time he texted me, I would call him because I knew he was up. And we talked. I think the last time was around 12:31 on the day of the 27th, 12:31 a.m. on the day of the 27th. And I asked him. He said he's having trouble sleeping, concerned about the suite door in his room, which I asked him to
Mhm.
just check to lock. And then he said, "I'm really tired, Mom. I have to go to sleep." And I said, "Okay, call me as soon as you wake up." And so starting at 5 a.m., at 5 a.m., I was thinking about calling him, but I knew he didn't have enough sleep, and I waited as long as I could. And then I started calling him, and there was no reply. And there was no reply, and he blocked me again. And this is the day where I called everybody. Uh, I saw the thing on I saw the post in the bank, and then I was calling Wendover, Thule County Sheriffs, West Wendover, Elko County Sheriffs. That was pretty early in the morning when I was calling them. I had them check all of the casinos and gas stations and truck stops, and that's when they started checking motels in Wendover and West Wendover, and 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 so so now, on the morning of the 27th, what happened, was that he checked out of the hotel at about 6:23 a.m. and headed south on Highway 93. He stopped at the 23-mile marker. There was a rancher who was going by to move some of his equipment at his ranch, and he passed Aidan. Uh, he said he didn't think too much about it. The young man was standing on the other side of the truck, off on the shoulder, across from this weather station. There's like a little weather station on the other side of the road, and he says a lot of people stop there. There's a wider shoulder there, I guess, because people
Mhm.
stop to work on the weather station or whatnot. So that was about, he said, 8:15, and then he said that his employee went by with more equipment, saw Aidan about 8:30 or so, and he was moving stuff back and forth between the truck in this and putting it under the fence and going back to the truck. And then the NHP, I'm sorry, NHP showed up at 8:50 and found his car door open, wallet on the seat, uh, personal effects, bags, duffel bags, everything there, and decided to lock the door and shut it and drive off after marking it with grease paint, with the date on it. And I've argued with the NHP over this, that wasn't an appropriate response for that situation, and I challenge any of them to think about their own mother, father, child,
Anybody for that matter
daughter,
that could have been
sister, brother.
stranded or stuck alongside the road or hurt or whatever.
If they felt
They
that
just
was
didn't even check.
adequate response, yeah, adequate response to that situation, I, I, I dare them to say that to my face. If one of their family members' vehicle was found like that, would they want law enforcement to react that way? And
Right.
and they were saying stuff like, "Well, he could have gotten a ride for somebody. Somebody could have picked him up." I'm said, exactly. He has California plates. Who does he know out here? Why would his door be open? And
Mhm.
and and they said, I
Not to
said,
mention his personal effects still sitting in the car.
yeah. He said, well, somebody could have robbed his car with his wallet and everything sitting there. Nobody robbed his car, obviously. And then I'm sorry, I get really upset when I think
It's
about
okay.
this. And then
Sherry, the door was left completely opened.
oh, it
It
was,
wasn't just unlocked, it was opened,
yeah,
ajar.
yeah, it was wide open, and his wallet and stuff and everything was in there. And so then there were footsteps going out, and they said something like, "Well, we can't go walk out into the desert." It's like, not for even a little ways. I mean, he could have been having a medical emergency. He
Mhm.
he he could have been having, something. So there's records and body cam and everything that I'm waiting to receive.
Mhm.
Possibly I would like to see what this officer did. I can't really say what, but I still think this was not an adequate response. And they also told me that they're on a different frequency from the Elko County Sheriff's Department, but there must be a way to check with the other jurisdiction in the area. Uh, um, I just, I just don't buy that. That's what dispatch is for. Dispatch goes back
Right.
and forth. That's what dispatch is for. So,
And at this point, you had already notified
oh,
authorities to be looking for him, or no?
oh yeah, I had notified the Elko County Sheriffs, and they opened up a case, and
Mhm.
missing persons case. But they needed me to check back with the original jurisdiction. As I said, Sonoma County Sheriff's Department did absolutely zero for my son, nothing. And they wouldn't ping his phone, they wouldn't do anything. And so there's like this protocol problem with police. Go back and you have to go back to the original, blah blah blah. And so finally, but the Elko County Sheriff's Department was on it, and so was the West Wendover, and they were all looking for him in those areas, which he wasn't there yet. We did not know where he was yet. That was the last place for him to be known to be. So I just feel like enough wasn't done when they found his truck, and I still hold to that. I just feel like that wasn't enough. And
Just gonna put
so
up the
then,
map here because I'm gonna show people the area where like he was in Wells at the hotel there, and then he was down by Curry,
yeah, he was
which
about
is
4 or 5
right there.
miles north of Curry. He was at the 23 marker. So you want to go east a little bit from there. You want to go east,
Yeah.
in the other direction.
Oh,
Pull out for a second. Okay, yeah. So
there's
yeah,
Curry on the map there.
yeah. Now
And
he was in the
then
northern part of that range. So you want to scroll down. So he was see up at the top there. Wait, so this is the mountain range, the one that you see in the middle of the screen. That I
mhm,
believe. is the mountain range he was in. He was in the northern part of that mountain range.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that 93 going south?
Yes. Yeah, it's coming down through.
Yeah. So,
Whoops. So, but regardless, like it's these mountains here, like
yeah.
around this area. There's
Yes.
Curri.
Yeah.
Just to give people an idea of what the area kind of looks like.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that, people are saying that they were found, Dylan and Aidan disappeared 50 miles within 50 miles. That's not true. They were both about 50 miles away from wells, but in
Mhm.
different directions. So they were 100+ miles away, between 90 and 100+ miles away from each other. And,
Mhm.
it's
And
been
that's if you were to draw a straight line. That's not even taking roads,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people like to think that it was in a much closer area, but it wasn't. And if you've been out there, ever been out there, that's vast. That's vast out there. That's a vast area. Um, so uh, so that brings
Sorry, I
us up
didn't
to
mean to
when.
derail you there.
No, no. So that's where Aidan, disappeared, and then I was calling the NHP. Like I said, I was calling the NHP. They're trying to defer me back to where the original report was. I'm like, no, 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 no. So there's communication problems that has to be solved. I mean, there's no way um, somebody should be telling you to go back to the original thing, the original report, the jurisdiction you made the original report in, if this is a moving target, and
Mhm.
and at that time on the 27th, I think I called the central NHP because I had no idea where Aidan was. He could have been
Right.
anywhere in Nevada on any highway. And so, what did I have to believe at that point on the 27th that he was still in Elko County? I didn't. That's why I was calling the NHP, because they cover the state, and I needed their help. And
Now let
so,
me ask you, was the stuff that the rancher seen putting under the fence, was he able to identify any of it?
no, they said he had something dark under his arm. I think it was his jacket. It was like,
Okay.
so it got up to about 67 degrees that day, and it was about. So he never just wore a hoodie with no. He had a t-shirt on, a hoodie, and I think he had taken his jacket off. There's some people saying online that they saw him running away with his guitar. No, that's not true. I have never heard of any witness. If there's a witness who saw that, please give me, contact us
Mhm.
on here. But that's just the game of telephone again.
Mhm.
So they said his guitar was found up on a hill. It was actually about 60 yards or so south of his car, right along the road, right along the
Okay.
shoulder, but on the other side of the fence behind some bushes. That it wasn't up on the mountain. And what people need to realize is that there were three sets of mountains or hills. The first one was Palomino Ridge that he went
Mhm.
over. And when you get to the other side of that, it's flat for a while. And it gets to the Cherry Creek Range, which is a set of a primary set of ridge and lower mountains, followed by a long, thin valley,
Right.
and then the third higher mountains. And Aidan made it all the way to the third range. So he went over
Wow.
Palomino Ridge, over the next one, and then came down into the valley, and then went right up the next mountain.
Right.
And
It was 21 miles, I think I read
yeah,
that they tracked him.
yes. And another thing people get confused about is that mountain range out there, when you get into the valley, you're at 6,500 feet. 6,500 or 7,000 feet. He went up to 8,500 feet. So he went up another 1,000+ feet up that mountain. And when we went out, the last time we went out to search for him, July 9th. We went up to 10,000 feet. We went up to 10,000 feet looking for him. And
Wow.
yeah, we saw a herd of wild Mustangs.
So this is
Yeah,
the Palomino Ridge right here, guys, that she's talking
yeah.
about.
So then he went over that, went southwest, and then you see that there's like a big cut in the mountain there.
Mm-hmm.
He went over it north of that, and then you see this. There's like this range, and this the light area is yeah. You're a little bit too west on that right now, but
Okay.
yeah, but he see this weird egg-shaped thing? There's like a little egg-shaped thing.
Right there.
Yeah, yeah. So he was south, a little bit south of that, and went up a mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you see the other like egg-shaped thing, that is actually a canyon cut into the mountain, and
Okay.
that's how you get back there. And it takes a while to get back there. It's a very small canyon that you have to drive through with 4x4 vehicles. You cannot go to this area without a 4x4 vehicle. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have a device, a spot. There's no cell service out there. Sporadically, you can get AT&T carriers can get you can get text mostly, and sometimes get a call in, but that's it. I mean, you'll get cut off. It's only in certain very few places that you can do that. There's no Sprint, T-Mobile, or Verizon coverage out there at all, hardly, and and so you need to have a device if you go out into these places. I have one. It's called a spot, and they range from about $135 to up to $500. And what they do is you can send out an SOS signal with them, and it has a satellite, and it contacts the authorities to your location. And I urge people going out into the desert and into these wilderness areas to get one. You can get a simple one for $135. Do not go out there without something like that. And
Right. Everyone's
also,
asking about his tattoo. When did he get his tattoo? And
so he
what is
got
it of?
that tattoo. He has an A's logo for the Oakland A's on his ankle. This was something he designed himself. He was very excited when he turned 18. He kept telling me he was going to get a tattoo, and I'm like, Lord, please just wait, man. Just wait. You're going to change your mind about, getting tattoos is at a young age is like, you go through a lot of changes when you're young, and what appeals to you changes a great deal. And so I urged him to wait, but he had designed that himself, and then he searched and searched for a good tattoo artist in San Francisco, and found a very talented young lady. He showed her the image, the drawing that he made, and she is an artist, and so she drew something up for him, and he said, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I want to get." And it's a centipede, and then the eyes are little ants. I don't
Okay.
know what that was all about, but I urged I urged him to wait. I know somebody who has a cartoon character on their calf, and they got it when they were young, and they're like, "What was I thinking?"
It
And so
kinda reminds me of, like, something you would see on The Nightmare Before Christmas or something like that.
yeah, yeah, he used to watch Jack Skeleton, and we used to actually do Halloween Town. We used to do this play when he was little.
Okay.
Uh, it was a local theater, and
Mhm.
they put on the most amazing um, Halloween show for kids that danced and did these and sang, and it was we did that for like a few years when he was younger. It was really cool. The Sebastiani Theater in Sonoma, I used to put on. It was called Witchy Poo, and it was a play musical with all for kids. Aidan tap danced. They did all kinds of dancing, and at the end they did the Thriller song and everybody would do the Thriller moves. It was pretty.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a special thing, and that came, and I don't think they've restarted it up since the pandemic, which is a real shame because that was a really special thing in this town. Um, so that's that's his tattoo that he got there, and then he got the Oakland A's tattoo on his ankle. And so in the mountain range, um, we went up there 10,000 feet. The Ruby Mountain Rebels just, I mean, they went out, all
Hmm.
out. They really sacrificed a lot. We didn't get as many people. There was a rodeo in Elko that
The same
weekend. They had
weekend.
just,
Go
yes, and they
figure.
also had Fourth of July, and they had their
Hmm.
Basque. They have a Basque population there, and so there's a big Basque festival, and so they just kind of had these things going on every single weekend, and not to mention it was like 97 degrees out there, very
Right.
hot. And so when we go out there, they have two-way radios. Everybody has two-way radios, four-wheel drive. You have to let the air out of your tires down to 20 psi so that the sharp rocks don't puncture your tires. It rolls over the edges instead of puncturing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people
Hmm.
now people don't know that and are driving out there. You're going to pop your tires and get stuck out in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. This is what people don't understand. Aidan was just in the northern part of that Cherry Creek Range, and you will not believe when you get in there how vast it is. And just, I mean, that's literally like the top, um, probably sixth part of that mountain range. It just extends down south all the way down there. I mean, and we covered 175 miles collectively on that search. And it was the guys who went boots on the ground. I mean, it was brutal for them, just brutal. And I thank them so much. I mean, they've helped us so much. And this is not what they do. I mean, this is not. They're not a search and rescue team, and yet they have gone out and helped us twice, with a lot of people the first time and a smaller crew the second time, and they just really just. I just can't believe what they did for us and me and Aidan. I mean, it was, and my family, and I thank them profusely. My heart is just full of gratitude for them. And so what we're going to do to continue to do is so there, EquiSearch has had trouble getting drone operators out there because this is really what we need to do now. We need to get drone operators out there. The Elko County Sheriff's Department, it's been extremely hot out there,
Hmm.
100, and extremely hot out there this whole month, which this next coming month is supposed to cool down. When they go out for search and rescue or training, they can only go in the early in the morning, and they have to get out of there. It just gets too hot,
Too hot.
and people can fall over from heat exhaustion. So um, so that's been kind of there. I know that they reconvened recently, the search and rescue, for Elko County, and that they're trying to brainstorm and get new ideas and of where to look, and just a new, finding new areas to hone in on and stuff.
I think the hardest
EquiSearch,
part about this is the fact that he was basically trying to hide,
yes.
you think, right? From
Yes, I think the NHP came up and scared him, and he was so full of paranoia and not thinking straight. I don't think he had enough sleep. I think he got scared, and I don't know what was going through his mind, because he does know that people mark your cars on the side of the highway, and he was afraid. And maybe he thought that what happened with his grandpa had gotten him in trouble, and so he just ran. And
they said that he was performing what looked like evasive maneuvers
yeah,
throughout.
he was taking his shoes off. They've never found his shoes. Unlike Dylan, they never found his shoes. They haven't found one shred of clothing, nothing. And
So his
I'm
shoes were not found?
no,
Because I know that
no.
that's a misconception too. A lot of people think that his shoes were found.
Yeah, no, they were not found. He was taking them on and off, and so I am assuming they're with him. They're on now, and There was a jump ahead area, which nobody really believes that he's in the jump ahead area, because when the trackers were tracking him southwest, they realized that he was headed in a very specific direction consistently. So what they did was they had people go into the canyon and jump ahead, and sure enough, they saved a lot of time that way, and saw the him coming down a side of the mountain where there were a lot of shoals, like flat rocks, and you
Hmm.
can see distinctively when somebody comes down there, animal or whatever, because the unexposed parts of the rock are dark with moisture, and the top is light from the sun, drying out from the sunlight. So when somebody walks across them and disturbs it, you can very distinctly see the dark part of the rocks that have been disturbed. They've been
Okay.
exposed.
Yeah,
And so
that makes sense.
yeah, and so they saw that, because these are like they're flat sheets of rock, and they just slide on each other. And so they could see him sliding down these shoals from the exposed rock that had been covered up with moisture before. And so they tracked him down there, and that saved a lot of time, and they were able to jump ahead. But so there's this area that they never went through, and I just wonder, if there's anything in there that Aidan dropped, or piece of clothing, or anything, his keys, his phone. And but nobody believes that he's in that area. So
And
then
his
they
last cell
tracked.
phone ping was around 8 p.m. that night, I had read.
Yes, and
And then, go ahead.
yeah, so on the 27th, so when they did ping his phone, they didn't ping his phone until the 28th, but when they were able to get what was called a historical ping, and they said that that was at on the 27th around, yeah, after 8 o'clock, in in the that thin valley area, in that very
Okay.
narrow flat area. And so then they tracked him going just literally straight up this mountain. I mean, it starts out low and then it just keeps going higher and higher. We The first search with Ruby Mountain Rebels, we were able to take 4x4s up to near where his last tracks were found, which was 500 feet below the top of the mountain. So at 6,500 feet, he was at 7,500 feet in the air. He was
Wow.
7,500 feet up the side of this mountain. And uh, he was 500 feet from the top of this mountain, and he had walked up it. Now, we drove up on this old ATV uh, track that obviously had not been used as some of the other as much as the other tracks. There was all kinds of brush and stuff in the way. They were just not cleared like the rest of the tracks. So this was a ATV track, or track that people had not used that much, and we drove all the way, almost all the way up to where Aidan's footsteps, and we walked the rest of the way up, and it was steep. It was extremely steep. Um, it was
So let me
extremely
ask,
wooded.
during you guys' searches and stuff like that, have you guys found like any type of sources of water or anything like that that
Well,
he could have been drinking from, or
so
throughout your travels?
there was that party that had happened out in that thin valley there. One of the ranchers, it was the rancher's brother, had gone out there the week before looking for, they're constantly out there. Their cattle, when we went out there with the Ruby Mountain Rebels, cattle was everywhere out there. And so they were looking for cattle or something, and they came up upon a big party scene. There was like flip flops, food
Mhm.
wrappers, and a case of water, which wasn't opened.
Okay.
It had some bottles of water missing from it, but there was a bunch there. There are streams, and but you would have to walk right up on top of them to know they were
To
there.
know that they're there. Mhm.
Yeah, the streams in that area, and I've noticed through Nevada in different areas, cut straight down into the ground. It's not like it has a bank. We did come across a stream at one point on this last search where it was like a traditional, what you think of a stream. There's like a little bank, and then
Hmm.
there's trickle of water and rocks. But a lot of these streams, they literally just cut like a ribbon into the dirt. Um, and you would have to walk right up on it. So I've looked on Google Earth to see if Aiden may have come across it, and I just don't know. I don't know, but there was some water in the middle, and there was also snow at the top of the mountains. There was snow up there, and
Did he have any type of survival skills?
no,
Like, did he go camping or Boy Scouts or anything along
we
those lines?
he did, no, he wasn't in Boy Scouts. We had gone camping a few times, but it was like at a KOA. It wasn't like we
Hmm.
roughed it ever, and he did not. He did not. He's from Sonoma. It's There's no kind
Right.
of wilderness like that here. I mean, I mean, if you walk out towards the ocean and but there's a lot, just like
Hmm.
a lot of hills. There's woods out there too. You can get lost anywhere, but it is not as remote as this is. This is very remote, and I just I try not to look at Google Earth too much because it gets me really
Right.
upset.
No,
And,
I get it completely.
and so
Um, so
they
tell me so tell me what the plan is going forward as far as the search is and what you need as from our community, from people who listen to this that might have resources that's able to help you.
Yeah, so um, I'd love to. I'm not. I'm still holding out. I still hold the position that he may have gotten out, but these are brutal areas. They're brutal, and if you go out there unprepared, it's extremely dangerous. And so now, um, if people can keep an eye out for him. I mean, if he got out, he could be anywhere. I've been calling hospitals and been calling the Salvation Army. I've talked to police about what hospitals can tell you, and I've learned a lot from law enforcement this last week about uh, what hospitals will tell you and what they won't tell you. A lot of them will never tell you, even if they have him in the hospital in a psych ward. They will not tell you. They will check and see. Law enforcement's told me that they will check and see if it's a legitimate case, if he is indeed missing, and sometimes they will let law enforcement know. But there's such overcorrected HIPAA laws on this that it's insanity to me. It's insanity. They need to amend the HIPAA laws so that missing people can be found and reunited with their family, and so that you can know what's going on with loved ones when they start to um, have mental problems and become a danger to themselves. And that needs to change. And so this whole week when I was calling hospitals and stuff, that's what I learned, was that a lot of the times the hospitals will not tell you. There was a case where a very similar case somebody told me about, where there was a young man who was known to he was under treatment for psychiatric problems. He left home, got in his car, drove it to the wilderness, got out, and left. And 3 months later, he was found in a psych ward 1,000 miles away. 1,000 miles away. So I urge anybody who works at a hospital in that area, anywhere, to look for my son, to look at his photo, to see if he has been there. They say that they don't use John Doe always as a name. Sometimes they use, if he's admitted under a different name other than his actual name, it might be Smith, it might be Johnson. This is what they do. They don't always use John Doe. So I ask people to keep an eye out for him. As far as people going out and to help, I would ask people to wait until there's an organized search party. Nobody should be going in there alone, without spot devices, without the radios and the kind of equipment that you need in these remote
Right. Yeah,
areas.
it's just not safe. It's not safe to do a
It
solo
isn't.
search.
You don't need other. So I'll just share something with you about how easy it was on the side of this mountain to get lost. There's trees everywhere. When you look on the map, it looks like these trees are all spaced really far apart. They're not. They are all on top of each other. So I was up by Aiden's footsteps, and they were climbing up to the top of the mountain, which was a very hard, strenuous thing to do. And I decided I wanted to go down, but the side of this mountain was so steep that I felt like there's sagebrush all along it, and I was starting to trip over the sagebrush, and I didn't want to go head over heels down this mountain. So I decided to follow some of these cattle tracks, which kind of switch back and forth. Cattle goes up there. I mean, I who knew? They animal tracks, deer tracks, elk tracks. So I started to go. I thought I'll go to the right and the left, and I'll switch back down, except there wasn't really any opportunity to switch back to the left. So after a while, I found myself keep going further and further right. And then I realized that nobody could see me and nobody knew where I was. And I started yelling out loud, and I could barely hear them yelling. And then I just started yelling, I'm coming, I'm coming. And I started to go left back towards them. And finally, somebody was actually pretty close to me. They were about probably 20, 30 yards. We still could not hear each other. I mean, there's something
Oh,
about
wow.
this vast wilderness and the trees, and where you cannot, your voice just goes. It's like an ant
Like a sound
screaming at
barrier.
you. It's
Mhm.
just like if an ant was trying to squeak at you from way down there. That's it. It's just so vast that your voice is just completely lost. And finally, I just had to keep yelling. And then I heard them yelling. And that happened in a matter of minutes. In a matter of minutes. And and it can happen to anybody. And so, yeah, I don't
Somebody in
ever.
the chat is asking about a yellow bucket that he purchased.
Yeah, so there was a no, it was a black with a yellow lid. It's one of those you see them all over the place. They're at Costco, they're at Home Depot. They're black totes, plastic totes with a yellow, lid. And
About how big was it?
oh,
Like a like a
like 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 just like
a
most of the
standard
totes
size
that you
tote?
get. Yeah, yeah. It's
Mhm.
about what, 24 inches long, maybe 18
Okay.
inches high. And so he had taken, he'd taken a bag of clothes out, and then he took the tote out, and it seemed like it was pretty light. I think it might have been a blanket or something, or a pillow. I thought maybe he was taking bedding with him to go stay on his dad's couch.
So
That
that
was it.
purchase happened
Yeah,
before
there
he
you
left
go.
then. That wasn't while he was gone?
No, yeah, we bought that before, and then he took it out the door that the night that he left, and then I never saw that again. I asked his grandpa, "Did you see this tote?" He said, "No, I never saw that tote." So I don't know what happened to that tote.
Okay.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of room in his car. It might have actually flew away. That's the only thing I can think of, is that it he lost it. Um,
Okay.
Otherwise, it's kind of a mystery. I don't know what happened to that. Um, but so what we're doing is there are areas that they're looking at. Actually, I'm working. EquiSearch was gonna come out with some drones. Like I said, they were having problems with the drones. I'm working
Mhm.
with a team, a wonderful woman named Michelle. She's just amazing, and she has been helping me so much through this. And I've actually I've been consulting with her because she has been on successful searches before where they found somebody in Lovelock, Nevada, who got lost, and they found her 7 months later, uh, about 15 yards from ATV tracks, and they were using dogs and drones. And so these guys have a lot of experience with this. They're an extremely compassionate, amazing group of people, and I'm working with them to get drones as well. I would love it if EquiSearch could come out, but they're not from this area. They work in the Midwest and also in Texas, and
Mhm.
it's a vast area out there in the Cherry Creek Range. I'm sure there's room for more than one drone, for areas to be searched.
Right.
Because you have to hone it down. These drones only take like 20,000 pictures and they go in a grid. So you have to call ahead to the FAA and get the 4 sets of coordinates of the area in which you're going to search in. And
Hmm.
from what I've heard, they're able. This group of people that I'm working with Michelle, they're able to get the drones down pretty low to the ground, and that would be really helpful. But this next month coming up, it's going to be cooling off. I think that Elko County Search and Rescue is going to be out there searching new areas. They're going to try and go over the mountain because Aidan was so close to the top. There's been a lot of thoughts about him just going up and over the top and down on the west side of the Cherry Creek Range. I think it's a good candidate area for the drones. Unlike the other side, the mountain just doesn't go straight up on the east side of the Cherry Creek Range. On the west side, there are just foothills and foothills and foothills until it flattens out to there's a road back there.
Hmm.
And so there's all these low areas in between these foothills. If you look at it on Google Maps, you'll see that there's just a lot of foothills on the other side and a lot of low areas where someone could be. And so that's one area that they're going to check out. And I think they're going to check out an area to the south too.
Great.
So yeah, and I want to go out there in a few weeks. I don't like being here. Me
Yeah,
and my
it's the distance. The distance is killing you, I'm sure,
Yeah, it
because you
is.
have to travel and stay out there, hotels, everything else. Like,
Yes.
I can't even imagine
Yeah,
the cost and stuff.
we rent a car. I flew out one time and it was horrible.
Hmm.
I flew out and it was actually 15 hours. I could have gotten out there faster driving. So, when we've gone out, we've rented cars and just pay for gas and drive all night. We just
Hmm.
drive all night until we get there.
You
And
guys do his truck back. Sorry, somebody in the chat's asking about that.
yeah, I have his truck back. I have his items back. Um, uh, I'm glad I did. I drove it back actually. I was
Hmm.
able to. That was the time when I flew out. I drove his car back. It was really hard to get to it because there was a lot of you know he had there was a problem with his car after I picked it up. It had been sitting there for months, and but it turned out not to be anything too serious. And also, you know, the Elko County Sheriff's Department, they were saying like they don't think there's no criminal case, but if you break the chain of custody and it turns out to be criminal, then so there was they just had to let me know that. So,
Hmm.
because then you break the chain of custody when you take his stuff. And so that was a real conundrum for me. That was a choice. I was at a crossroads there. Do I take this stuff? But, there's no indication that this was criminal, none
No
whatsoever.
foul play.
And
And then there was, of course, the ranchers that seen him, and so
yeah,
they
and
didn't see anybody like threatening him or pulling him out of the
n-
vehicle, or nothing
no,
like that was seen.
the rancher just saw him standing peacefully on the other side of his truck.
Hmm.
And also there was only one set of tracks going into when the next morning when the NHP and the Elko County's Sheriff Department went out there on the 28th. There was at no point did they see other tracks
It was just
with
his
Aidan.
footprints.
Yeah, just his footprints, him taking his shoes off and his bare footprints, his shoes again. There was a sock print at one point. I actually saw that when the sheriffs took me out there that first week. So, uh,
I
Yeah,
think
there
something
was.
I want to point out to everybody too, like the way that you were calling him and texting him and calling him and texting him and stuff like that, that wasn't like something that was your normal behavior of communication. That was because he was acting so erratically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to text him about dinner sometimes, you know. I mean, I would text for
Hmm.
dinner and when you're going to be home. And because he would go out at this point, when he was 19, he'd go out with his friends and go in and
See
get
what
In
he
and Out
wanted. Yeah.
Burger. So it was like logistical stuff. But he, uh, yeah, this was a no, I was frantic. I was frantic. I mean, I was just continually on the phone, texting him, calling law enforcement, calling it. I was at the computer. I was doing all, I just felt like I was losing my mind. It was insanity. And, and I was, uh, that, you know, I got my phone bill back from April and May, and it was 28 pages long from all the
Yeah,
phone
Liz,
calls.
the bucket, or it's not a bucket, it's a tote,
Yeah,
and it
it's a,
was not in the truck. Mom has the truck, she has his belongings. It was not there.
yeah. I mean, I can't see the private chat. Oh, I turned on the comments. Okay, great. So yeah, it was. It's not a bucket. It's like a tote, like a you know what storage totes that you put in your garage and store your stuff in. And they're very common at the black ones with the yellow lids are very common at Home Depot and Costco, and we have several of them out in our garage. I have some out there right now, and we would throw stuff in them to go to the beach. We would throw stuff in them, you know, if we ever went on a trip, and so he had grabbed one, what I assumed was pillow and blankets, and put it out in the car, but it was not there when he got to Utah. Mike did not see one. Certainly, when Mike got into the truck, there was no room for one behind the seat. You know, there's just not enough room. He had his guitar and duffel bags back there and a back. Oh, he didn't have a backpack. I had duffel bags, and there was no room back there. He didn't see it, so it was gone. I don't know what happened to it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's one of the mysteries.
So let me
So
ask you, I know that one of the things that you wanted to talk about tonight is, kind of raising awareness for other families who might go through something similar to this. Because
yeah,
you're doing this basically, you are finding out all of this information, you are pushing and searching for how to handle this, who you need to contact, what you need to do, and really just muscling through this on your own.
yeah,
And so is there anything you want to say to people who are kind of going through a similar situation?
yeah. So there's a disturbing lack of any kind of criteria or information out there for somebody dealing with this, and I would like to change that at some point in the future. One of the things I learned was that, you know, I was trying to get a private investigator, and law enforcement told me do not hire, don't hire anybody who's not licensed in the state of Nevada, and that goes for any state that you're in. And also that goes the same for lawyers, because one thing I learned about this is a horrendous side effect of this situation when you have somebody going missing is that predators are looking for you, all kinds of predators. And I was contacted on Facebook. Some of them are less sophisticated, some of them are very sophisticated. I've been contacted by numerous people on Facebook who said that they had all kinds of like tactical teams and resources, and they've got trackers and this and that, and what they really want is money. You know, they want money, and they'll talk a good game for a little while and like get really interested in your case, and then they start telling you, well, I have this startup company with all this new technology to find people. You know, there was a very sophisticated guy who ran that on me, and immediately I just, you know, let go of that guy. There was another guy who's posing as military. He was very interested, and then he got to the part where he said, "I just ask you one favor. Me and my team, my military buddies are going to come out and look for him. Just don't tell law enforcement about it because we don't want them getting in our way." And that I shut them down. Then I've had this was a scary one, but also the least sophisticated was a hacked Facebook page where this guy, he couldn't even write. I mean, it was like broken English. He did not have a great command of the English language, and he was recycling information and photos of Aidan that were online. And he told me he knew where he was. He was in Florida in a warehouse, and I kind of called him on some of his BS, and he said, "Oh," and then he went from being, "I'm going to help you," to, "Your son's going to die, and he's going to get shot, and I'll send you a picture of his body." Okay, this happens, I imagine, to almost all missing person families.
Yeah,
Anybody
it's
who puts up it,
disgusting. I know, Elise Elwood's family went through something very similar. Somebody asking them for $7,000 for ransom for her, and it's just gross. It's gross the
yeah.
type of stuff that people do.
Yeah, they asked me for money too. They started out like helpful, but everything that they had was all information that was out there. And so, also you don't want paraprofessionals, people who are saying they're there to help you, saying that they're uh, professionals, and they are not there to help you. So you have to be careful about the people that you hire. I'm working with people now who are helping, and the people that I was working with are, a person or people that I was working with before that were not helping. I have let them go. But you have to be really careful about that. Listen to law enforcement about that. Um, so I was doing a search on the, one of my, during the time when I was going completely crazy looking for help. I literally typed in helping to find missing persons, and I was typing in stuff like that. Help me find missing persons. The only thing that came up were pages and pages of these sites where you can enter in missing person pages, which are great to get them into the system. But at the time when you are trying everything within your power as fast as you can to find your loved one, that's not helpful. And I realized, that what would be really helpful is something to pop up to the top of a search engine and have a missing persons network or something that has actual resources, phone numbers to other states. You cannot call 911 in another state. You have to have all their dispatch numbers. The NHP has 3 sectors in the state of Nevada, and I was pulling up all kinds of numbers and couldn't find the correct dispatch numbers. That could be put into a website for every state. The county dispatch numbers could be put into a database. Hospital contacts could be put into a database. Shelters could be put into a database for every state. And this is something that I would like to start because you have no time to lose. You have zero time to lose when you are
Right.
looking for someone that you love. And I believe that HIPAA laws need to be amended. I believe there needs to be funding and protocols put in place for missing persons for law enforcement. I think that every law enforcement should have a jurisdiction, or county should have a law enforcement psychologist always employed, at least at the county level.
I
Um,
agree. And that would help with not only missing cases and families and things like that, but also domestic situations and things.
yeah,
That
and
would be so, so useful.
yeah, and it would be because any law enforcement officer will tell you they are dealing with, in America right now, mental health issues, not just with missing people, every day with the
Right.
homeless, in domestic situations. They are dealing with mental health out there every single day. And so they need professionals. out there to help them deal effectively with this. And we need to do better in the health care industry and in the mental health industry. There need to be changes. Changes need to be made. And also, there's an endangered status. I went around and around with the with the Sonoma County sheriffs here about the designation of endangered status, and in some places, having a psychosis and a mental breakdown, that is endangered, and in other ones it's not. They only count people who have developmentally disabled or um, elderly people with dementia or cognizant problems. But I argue that people with having a psychosis and a mental breakdown are having cognizant problems. They can't recognize
Absolutely.
when they're in danger. How
Not
can
to
they?
mention the fact that they could be a threat to themselves or other people.
Exactly. And they are having cognizant issues. They are not seeing reality. They are,
Mhm.
and we have to stop separating. You know, uh, people's minds are in their body, and so it is. If your mind isn't working right, your body is going to be in danger. If you can't discern dangerous situations, and then you're putting yourself in danger, and that goes for also hurting other people. We've got to make some changes. We can do better, and we can make this. I do believe that I've heard stories where law enforcement has not done anything, like that story in Missouri. There
Mhm.
needs to be some kind of laws passed about the uh, basic protocols.
Response. Yeah, I
Yes,
agree.
and law enforcement jurisdictions need to be held to that. These jurisdictions that don't want to do anything, that is not acceptable. That's not acceptable. They're there to protect and serve their public servants, and that is their job.
Right.
So
I
that's
really look forward to when you start that project. I would like to help with that
yeah,
and assist. And I know that there are people in my team that would also like to be a part of that and help you. I
yeah,
know that first finding Aidan is your main
yes.
priority.
Yes, it is. And that is something though that's down the road, and it will be a huge undertaking, and we'll need lots of volunteers and to research contacts and information and to enter it into databases, and so that's down the road. And right now I'm concerned with getting my big concern is getting drones out there. I think that's what we need to do, and I am working with a really good team of people who are helping me. They're also going to be having dogs out there, and we're trying to get that in place. And they are in contact with the Elko County Sheriff Department, and there's a lot of cooperation because the Elko County Sheriff Department was the only jurisdiction that has been there for me, went all out and shared information with these groups of people to find
Mhm.
Aiden, and that's all they want now. I mean, that's all they want is to find Aiden.
Good.
With me, like is, they're the only jurisdiction that's really been there for me through this whole thing, and I'd like to thank them because they've done a lot for me, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate a lot of the people in Elko who have helped me. Office Depot has been very good to me. Shutters has been very good to me. The automotive people have been good to me. They turned around. My car broke down at one point out there, and they helped me turn it around really quickly so that we could keep doing what we needed to do to find Aiden. And so that was Joe's Garage, and also Monkey Wrench. Monkey. Oh my gosh, there's another garage called Monkey Wrench or Monkey Works or something, and they were great too at turning, getting me taken care of very quickly, so I could keep going.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that the community out there, even though you're not from there, has
Yeah,
come together to help you so much.
they did. I mean, I was alone at first. I didn't have any community, but I'll tell you, the Elko County people, also the Bureau of Land Management, the map people out there, they've helped me. They just have been able to supply maps, whatever I needed. And there's a great community there, and I am very appreciative of it. And I just wanted to say that.
Is there anything else that you feel like we missed tonight, Amy?
No, I mean, I agree with someone there who's saying that that the mental health psychosis should be treated as an alert. There needs to be an alert for that,
Yes.
most
Yeah, I
definitely.
agree.
That's one of the other things. There's a lot of changes we can make to make sure that this doesn't happen, for quicker response times and getting out there, because they tell you first 48 hours is the most critical. It's the most critical, and there's a lot we can do to 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 shorten the response time and to cut through a lot of the stuff that people have to go through, families. And I mean, the families, it's insanity when it happens, and you're just grasping at everything that you can, and there has to be some kind of uh, consolidated database of information, and also to explain to people what the laws of 5150 are. I encourage people to find out what that entails in your state. Also, I just want to tell people, I was told by somebody that if you're not sure that your loved one is experiencing psychosis and you don't want to call a 5150 on them, uh, and because they haven't said anything, but you're still worried, it's like a $250 fine in I think in California at least, for not for erroneously, you can get in trouble for that, but it's erroneously reporting a 5150. I think there's a $250 fine. People should know that people should check that kind of information out in their state as well,
Hmm.
to know what they can do and what's available to them, everything they can put in their arsenal to find their loved one and help
Right.
them. Yeah. So I think that's all I've got right now.
And honestly, I haven't seen any questions that we haven't already answered. And so I just want to tell you thank you, Amy, for trying to be strong for Aidan, for being strong for Aidan,
Yeah.
and for opening yourself up to this platform and others so that you can help get his awareness out there. I want to encourage everyone who is here. If you haven't followed the Facebook group, that is a great place to watch for updates. The link has been dropped a few times in the chat here. I'll make sure it's in the description of this video as well as in the comments. Amy is active in the Facebook group. She does, post little updates here and there. And so please consider, going to follow it if you are on Facebook. If you guys don't want to do that, that's great too. Amy will be back at some point, I'm sure, to update us again.
Mhm.
And
Yes, I
so
will.
thank you so much for your time. And, you know, just everybody please send up prayers for her and good vibes and all of the things, because she is staying so strong for this
And
and
for Aidan,
enduring all of
please,
this.
please
And
send
for
out
Aidan,
prayers for
yes.
Aidan. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and again, if you work in a healthcare facility or any type of facility like that, anywhere within, I would say, 5-10 state radius of this, please look at his picture.
Hmm.
Show his picture to your friends. And if
Hmm.
you see him at a hospital, please reach out to Amy, because she's not able to get this information because of HIPAA laws if he is in a facility somewhere. And so that's important too. Share his face, share his pictures, because that's always a possibility.
Yeah. So if you know anybody who works in the healthcare industry too, especially psych wards, please pass this information on to them. I would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, all
I will.
right. Thank you. So, go ahead.
I will have his poster linked onto the Find Aidan Clune page with his case number on it, and that you can use that to pass it on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, great guys. So thank you all for coming. Hit the like button, guys. Share the video and get this information out there everywhere. Amy, thank you again, and I will talk to you later.
Okay, great.
Have a great
Thanks a
evening.
lot, Sooth Mom. Thank you. You too. Thanks.
Bye. So that's it, you guys. Thank you guys again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and close us down. Have a great night.